That's not the one. That is the one. Hello everyone. It's me, once again, Samuel, your friendly internet uncle that wants to help you get into philosophy. And today I don't have a game, I have a straight up LibreOffice Impress presentation. We don't use Microsoft products here. So, what's up today? Okay, I want to help people get into philosophy. That's the purpose of this channel. Being a streamer is secondary. The goal is to get more people familiarized with philosophy in a friendly and more personal way. That's what we want here. So I've been thinking about how to approach this, what's the best way to do it, and there's not a single best way to do it. And sometimes I think it's better to just start, fumble a bit, learn from an attempt, and try again better. So I think I'll go back to the problem of getting people to understand what an argument is and how to have good, healthy habits around arguing and debating and all that several times, and it's fine. I will do this as much as it is necessary. And I want to start at the beginning. I want to start at the most basic, called by some people atomic element in an argument, and that is a statement, which some people also use the term proposition, but that is a philosophically charged term. We're going to use the term statement here. So, what is the deal here? I want to introduce this notion, explain that it is a limited, pragmatically minded notion. I'm not going to provide a definition of fact or a definition of declarative sentence that is the one correct definition for every and all cases. I want to provide something that is good enough to get people started, interested in the subject, and in practical terms, helps them start doing something that I've seen a lot of people struggle with. And that is specifically writing an essay, homework essays, for either high school or college. So next slide. So what's going on? What's my concern, or what prompted this? Another thing I want to do with this channel is to just help people with academic work in general. Homeworks, essays, just, I don't understand this. Can I get some help? Because I think the educational system right now is not, especially in the West, it's not doing its part. Particularly the current generations that are in college or college age people right now, they got just a really shitty sequence of events. They suffered through COVID and forced homeschooling during their middle school, So if you're in college right now, you're entering college, you are either 18 or 19. So that means that COVID started 6 years ago, more or less. Which means that you were 12 or 13 when you were when COVID hit and we were forced to homeschool. So that means that a very important part in the shift between elementary school and middle school was completely warped by COVID. Not that middle school is particularly good anyways. Educational systems in the West just seem to not care, like, at all. Well, Setter, you're not... I mean, I was talking about people who are entering college right now. Also, welcome. Might as well move that here, it's more readable. Yeah, you are, what, 22, I think? Sorry for doxing you like that on air. Whoops. You're 20-something. Yeah, don't worry. Hopefully this, because I'm gonna cover something very dry and academic, it will help you sleep. You're in your early 20s. Let's put it like that. Okay, you're in your early 20s. That means that, okay, it didn't hit you when you were 12 or 13. It hit you when you were 14 or 15 or 16, one of those. So it hit you when you were starting high school. Again, also an important part in your educational process. And it's not just you, it's a lot of people. A lot of people got hit with COVID during that part of their lives. And then we got so-called artificial intelligence, generative AI, ChatGPT, Grok, and so on. And we have a problem in higher education where people don't understand why they are in higher education at all, and they just present AI-generated essays. And look, I'm not a teacher, I'm not grading you. I mean, I am a teacher, but I am not a teacher in an official capacity. I am not grading people or... like, yeah, I don't care about, like, blasting people or criticizing them for using generative text. I mean, I ultimately think that if you do that, the one you're playing is yourself. So it's not like... yeah. It's not like I want to instigate an antagonic relationship between me and my viewers. Whatever. I want to help people out. Yeah, okay, thanks for the example, Setter. Yeah, Setter used to convert his webcam to share his screen, so he was playing Counter-Strike in the middle of classes instead of actually paying attention to... yeah. And not only that, Setter also distracted the other students. Great job, Setter. Anyways, point is, a lot of college-age people right now can't seem to write. And I am not saying that as in they are bad at writing. I am saying that they don't seem to know at all how to write, how to even start forming an essay, or what an essay is supposed to do. So this series is meant to at least help people get an idea, a vague, not definitive, but hopefully useful notion of what an essay is, how to write one, and so on. So, next slide. Okay, so basically, an essay, and here I'm focused on essays meant for school, or something that you're being graded for, something that asks you to make an essay, not because you want to, but because it's being asked of you. Because if you're at a point where you write essays for fun or because you want to, I don't think you need this guide. So yeah, if you're being asked to make an essay, start with the idea that it's a short text, 2 to 12 pages long, meant to discuss a single idea or subject. And that is a very broad and vague statement. I mean, discussing an idea can be done in a huge amount of ways. You can discuss an idea by analyzing it, by breaking it down into constituent parts and studying the parts. You can discuss an idea by comparison, by analogy, by genealogy, like trying to understand where it came from. But for the most part, when you're being asked to do an essay for college or high school, you're expected to provide an argument for or against a general point. And because an essay is a short text, it's hoped, expected, desired that you only have one main point, one core argument, a single conclusion that the essay centers around. Of course, in order to make one big argument, you can use smaller sub-arguments, but the idea is that there is one core point or conclusion that is the axis of the essay. Some essays that you're asked for in school can be of a personal note. Like, instead of providing an argument for and against something, you will be asked about your experiences in your life, or what do you think about X, or explaining your own words what you think about a literary essay or short story that you saw in classes. Okay, so those kinds of essays are sometimes called personal essays. And there's multiple reasons to ask of that essay as a teacher. Like, I may just want to inspire you to write, just for the sake of writing, get more loosed up on the idea of just writing and finding that self-expression. Or because the personal essay reveals how you arrange your ideas in a way that a prompted essay does not. So yeah, personal essays tend to be more useful as a way to sample what is being learned or thought about in class. Sutter says, I wrote my high school essays by just typing what I will do, trying to relay the explanation that I understood. Yeah, that's paraphrasing. I will explain it in a general form like those folks at National Geographic. Yeah, that's a particular style that works for you. That's fine. But anyways, I'm just here to provide a very general understanding that is good enough to get people to start writing. That's the goal here. Next slide. Okay, so the core here, my main concern is that I believe in the political virtue of debate and discussion. I think all societies should debate and discuss and share ideas with one another more. I am a profoundly autistic man, and I personally really like talking. I like conversation. I like discussing things. I thought I didn't. For most of my life, I thought I hated talking. That's because what I thought was talking was not really talking. Most people do not, when they do something about talking, but they don't really communicate ideas. For most neurotypical people in the West, when you tell them about discussions or debates, they imagine shouting. They imagine hurting other people and trying to dominate a conversation. They imagine a social theater in which they have to prove they are superior and they are greater in the social hierarchy. It took me a lot of years of my life to understand that. That I hate. I absolutely hate. It is stressful, it is confusing, it makes people hate each other. I don't want that. I want rational, cooperative, friendly debates in which people are openly and honestly discussing ideas and not just performing that to try and impress each other or to try and claim they are greater or superior in a social hierarchy. I believe in debate and discussion as important tools for democratic, what's the word I'm looking for? Edification. Yep. I believe in open dialogue. I believe that the more people discuss their worries in a friendly and respectful manner and engage in good faith, we can understand each other better. And I believe all of that is incredibly important to have a more healthy and invested political participation in a society. So I really want people to argue, not in the neurotypical shouting and screaming kind of way, but in the nerdy, methodical, cooperative kind of way that I was thankfully introduced to when I went to study philosophy. One of the best experiences I got from studying philosophy was this dimension of, sharing points of view, debating them in a respectful manner, and everyone growing and becoming better and more informed, some may even say wiser from the event. So I want to get people into arguing for fun and for personal growth. And that is not a simple task. Arguments are complex. They require mental discipline. They require unlearning what we tend to associate as arguing and debates, aka organized screaming. So I'm gonna just break down what an argument is. I'm gonna try and start from the most basic element that can be used to build an argument. So in the traditional formal notion of argument, an argument has at least three parts: premises, conclusion, and something called an inferential nexus, which is an indication that the premises lead to or imply the conclusion. Setter says, I personally have trouble organizing my thoughts, especially when the argument gets heated. Yes, that is a discipline, that is a skill that requires training. And the best way to start training is with other people who have already been trained and who won't start screaming and shouting and making it about themselves and their ego. On a side note, a lot of my family watches romantic comedies, and this notion of debate as organized screaming is very, very common in movies. Like, typical romantic comedy stuff. There's a misunderstanding. One of the two members of the romantic coupling wants to explain themselves, but there is confusion. The words don't come out right, and then people start crying, screaming. The misunderstanding avalanches into a fight, and so on. And it creates drama. It creates a type of drama that I personally heavily dislike. I, like many autistic people, don't like drama built from misunderstandings, especially misunderstandings that could be easily fixed if people could just fucking speak to each other. Yeah, the problem is that such ubiquitous understanding of what an argument is common, and that teaches people that the correct way to argue is through that display of organized screaming. And okay. So we have premises, conclusion, and inferential nexus. Premises, yeah, are a set of statements. So a premise should be modeled. I'm using very precise technical language. A premise should be modeled as much as possible as a singular statement. That is the desired way to do it, but reality isn't always that simple. And conclusions are claims. Conclusions are things that we implicitly, by placing them as an argument, we are claiming that they are true. So I'm going to use this notion of claims as is common in Western philosophy. A claim is, especially in context of debate and argumentation, a claim is a statement in which the person speaking is either explicitly or implicitly asking everyone else in the discussion to take as true. A claim is a claim because it claims to be true. You're claiming that this statement is factual, is truthful, or whatever epistemological or theory of knowledge term you prefer to use. Some people don't like talking about truth, some people don't like talking about facts. There are long philosophical discussions about what those things mean and why you should pick one over the other. That's not something we're going to do here today. I'm going to have to ask you to at least vibe or intuitively use those words for today. Okay? We're not going to build a profound, total solution to the question of what is truth and what is a fact. That is way above what I can do in a 2 to 3 hour Twitch stream. Okay? I just want to open the question, open the problem that, yeah, it's not something granted. It's not something solved. We have not solved the problem of what truth is. We have not solved the problem of what a fact is. Yeah, those are tricky terms. That's what matters right now. Okay, so next slide. So for the sake of writing an essay, let's take this working definition. So in philosophy, we have multiple notions of a definition. We have like the ultimate definition that clearly and totally cleaves a concept into what is and defines it very totally against what is not, and there are no possible counterexamples. That is the ideal fantasy goal of a definition. And we cannot always have that. Sometimes we need to take a partial definition that we know is incomplete, but is good enough to get us somewhere. We use the term working definition for that. It's a definition I will take temporarily, even knowing it is not total and complete, but it is good enough for me to do work. It is a working definition. So these are working definitions, okay? We're going to take a statement as a clear, simple, singular declaration. The singular part is so that we can have like an understanding of a statement as a unit. A statement next to another statement. Something that we can count, and if we can count, we can do math. And math related to statements is basically formal logic. So that's what we want, a definition of a statement that leads to a unit of measurement, a statement, 2 statements, 3 statements, and so on. A statement should also be clear and simple, not composed of multiple parts. So we want to have something that is as atomic as possible. And we also want to avoid as much vagueness and ambiguity as we can. We'll go through some examples of how ambiguity can mislead us later on. Sorry, alarm. Okay. Thanks for the hydrate. Okay, so statements can be done through many ways, and they are done in many types of meanings and many types of sense. And we'll get to the problem, of intent and truth. Not all statements are necessarily factual claims. Again, depends on the intent and depends on what you take as true. But they can be. And again, we're in the context not of solving what is a statement once and for all, but in providing enough a definition good enough to make an essay. So, in the context of essays, statements can be factual claims. Basically, a word or a sequence, no, not a word, like a sentence that has in its syntax and in its meaning something that allows us to model it as a factual claim. Something that tells us, at least grammatically, that it could be true or taken as a fact. Again, what is a fact and what is truth are generally tricky questions. We can start with an apparently simple example. My chair has wheels. Okay, that is a declarative statement that has, at least in its syntax, a possibility of being taken as a factual claim. The problem is that a lot of what makes a communication possible is context. That same sentence could have a very different interpretation and not be taken as a factual claim depending on the context. Like, it could be a manner of speech. It could be an example of someone being lazy. Oh, I'm so lazy that my chair has wheels. So we'll see. We will never get able to escape from the problem of context and interpretation. Or Setter might imagine that it's a chair for assisted movement, and I was talking about an office chair. Yeah. It gets tricky. We'll go through why this is tricky. But again, we're just trying to get people enough tools to make their own essays. So, in the context of essays and essay writing for college, we usually want statements to be done through simple declarative sentences. Simple as opposed to complex. A complex sentence is the one that can be divided into two or more subordinate sentences. We want a simple sentence understood in terms of syntax as just subject and predicate. And we want declarative sentence in the sense of grammar. We don't want subjunctive. Yeah, we don't want subjunctive sentences written in the subjunctive mood. We don't want sentences about tastes or model sentences of the type I believe or I think or I feel. We want sentences of the type that use the verb to be, usually in the present tense. That horse is young. My door is broken. See, the most simple sentences people are actually taught. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Yeah, there we go. As I said, declarative sentences of this simple type are the first type of sentences people usually learn when they learn a new language. But they get weird if we start thinking about them. One of the most basic sentences people learn when they're learning a new language, let's say English, is something along the lines of the sky is blue. And that seems to be intuitively true if we don't think about it long enough. But if we have been poisoned by philosophers, okay, we start asking, okay, so when you say the sky, what do you mean? What is the sky? Turns out that the sky is not really a thing. I mean, it's not an object as of a simple nature as a chair or any type of tangible furniture. The sky is, if we are pedantic enough, a visual illusion created by the intermingling of the atmosphere around us, exactly Setter, the ozone layer, the light bouncing around from all these things, and also like with most visual phenomenons, they're all filtered by our very human perception organs, our eyes and our minds. Also, it's not exactly true that the sky is blue always. I mean, it's just bluish some of the time. In some parts of the world, the sky can be blue in certain day, a certain time of day, in certain geographical location, but if you change those parameters, the sky can be gray and full of smog, or it can be blue and greenish and pinkish if you are under an aurora borealis. Yeah, exactly, Setter. So syntactically, the sentence is simple. But if we want to turn that sentence into a statement, it starts getting tricky. Yep. So the declarative sentence is called declarative because it declares that things are happening in a certain way. That is extremely vague. But it basically informs us of how language might predispose us to think of what a statement is. People have for centuries thought, okay, yeah, I mean, a statement is just a declaration that an object has a property. That's a way of understanding things are happening in a certain way. But it gets tricky when I say that an object has a property. Let's say, okay, my chair has wheels. That's a very simple way of understanding a property, because wheels are another physical object I can interact with and measure and see. And if my chair has wheels, then I should be able to just see if the wheel actually has, sorry, if the chair actually has wheels built into it. You could also say the sun rises after dawn as a factual statement. Yes, but no. Because some people might say, no, it's only a fact when it is true based on the meaning of what it claims. But the sun rises after dawn is a logically circular statement, because dawn is defined as the moment after which the sun rises. So you would basically saying the sun rises after the sun starts rising, depending on how you define dawn to be. And that's an example of how this, like, thinking too much about what a fucking declarative sentence is gets tricky and annoying. And yeah, this is real philosophy done by real philosophers. I am sorry. That is what we take your money and start doing. We start pondering if what does the sun rises after dawn means. And my goal here is not to make you ponder endlessly about language. My goal here is to make you think a little bit about how to write an essay. And that begins by asking yourself, what does this sentence mean when I write it? Okay, so some examples of declarative sentences. Today is sunny. I work as a teacher. I am sad. And, but certainly not the least, Donald Trump will die one day. That is a completely impersonal statement. That's just a simple declaration of fact. Because all humans will die one day. Donald Trump is a human, and therefore, Donald Trump will die one day. So, I am not saying or implying anything. Again, we can start analyzing or questioning what do we mean when we say any of these things. Like, okay, so a problem in the first sentence is today is sunny. Okay, what does today mean? Yes, sir, I am sad to announce that Donald Trump is indeed human, or at least human-like enough in his constituent biology. So, what does today mean? Today is something that is called an indexical. If I say today, and today in my time zone is Saturday, today refers to Saturday. But it does so through an act of speech. When I use the word today, changes not the meaning, but the reference of the term today. We can also ask, what does it mean to be sunny? And we can just say, well, I mean, we can take out some lumen test and measure the luminosity of... But that's, again, not really the point. The point is not that we are going to find a single answer to how to analyze language once and for all. The point is that these are examples of how to analyze language, so that this may inspire you as you write your essays to ponder, okay, what do I mean when I say this? What will my teacher think when I banish this bot to the shadow realm? Be gone. Yeah. The idea is to take this as inspiration to not just write whatever comes or appears in your head, but to turn writing into a slower, more conscious, deliberate process. What am I saying when I write this sentence this way? Am I claiming something? Are there underlying assumptions that I am not aware of? Am I conveying the meaning I intend to do? And so on and so on. Okay, next slide. So, the problem that emerges when we start like learning to do this for the first time and start pondering about it Okay, I more or less understand what is a declarative sentence in terms of syntax. It's a simple sentence with just subject, predicate, and a declarative verb, such as the verb to be, or an action verb, such as jumps, runs, sleeps, hops, and so on. But what if I want to turn my declarative sentence into a factual claim? Then I have to face the problem, okay, what is a fact? How do I write something that is true? How do I defend a claim? How can I make an affirmation that will stand against critique? And if we start going through that rabbit hole and we start thinking and thinking, we'll eventually, okay, so what does it mean to know something? Okay, we have, do facts exist by themselves, or are they social relationships? If I know something for a fact, does that mean that is true for everyone? For example, if I know that I feel hungry right now, is that knowledge I can share or prove? Can something be knowledge if I cannot prove it? And again, those are not questions you're supposed to be able to answer right away. We are not going to solve the problem of knowledge in order to make an essay. But you do need to have at least some sense or at least a functioning enough concept of what is a fact and what is not, what can be made into a fact and what is clearly not meaningful enough to be a fact or doesn't have the correct grammatical structure to be a fact in order to write an essay. Setter ponders. If I see a green balloon, a colorblind person might see it as gray. That sounds silly, but that is a complex philosophical question. I mean, there is a problem in perception in general, in that what I see as green, you might have a different individual experience of what is green. But as long as our instructions on what to call green match, we will not suspect there's any difference going on. For example, many people who are colorblind do not find out they are colorblind until someone else surprises them with a colorblind test. They have successfully learned to label green as green, but then they realize, oh no, what I called green is actually gray for other people. But yeah, that's a broader philosophical problem. Now, a provocative test to see if we're going anywhere. You know that grifter? No, it's not interrupting setter. That's why I wanted this to be a streaming thing as opposed to a video essay, because I value the interaction. It makes it function closer to a class and allows me to clarify things that I may think are clear to me but are not clear for the audience. Anyways, there was this scandal with this student, something Fulnecki, that basically presented a shit essay because she wants to grift and become part of a right-wing culture warrior ecosystem bullshit. And she basically wrote something along the lines of, God hates queer people. It has the syntax of the declarative sentence. It has a subject, God, a predicate, hates queer people. It's a very simple sentence. It's syntactically a declaration. But can it be a factual claim? Is that a sentence that can be true or false? That can be known or proven? No, says Setter. Why not? Some people claim it's true. some people might say, I mean, it's true because my priest told me. And the priest is a moral authority and a divine authority, so whatever he says about God is true. Sarah says, because God didn't say that directly. Yeah, well, but this person will say, yeah, but God communicates indirectly through his book, the Bible, and through his priests, supposedly. I don't know. I'm trying to imagine they will say. But another person will say, well, I mean, in the concept of God, it is included all excellences and virtues, and hatred is not a virtue or an excellence, so it is impossible for God to hate. Some other people say, no, that cannot be a factual statement because we can never verify any property about God. We can verify if a chair has wheels, we can verify if a door is broken, because we can just go to the event and observe it, but we have not observed any property of God. We do not have any idea how, in principle, we could even come to test if that sentence is true or false. So, it's nonsense, some people will say. Whatever the case is, for your actual theology or philosophy or whatever, when it comes to an essay, you don't want to write things that cannot be proven like that. I'm not saying it's true or false. I'm talking about whether something can be proven. Proof and truth are not the same thing. There are things which are true that we cannot prove. There are things we prove even though they are false. Ideally, some people thought that we could have a system that for everything that is true, we can prove it, and for everything we can prove, it is true. And turns out that that's pretty much impossible for any matter complex enough. But that's for another day. The point here is, if you're writing an essay, try to ask yourself, well, okay, this sentence has the syntax of something that is declarative, but can it actually be proven in principle? Next slide. Some people say that analytic philosophy is a meaningless masturbative exercise by the greatest dorks in existence, whose greatest project, logical positivism, was shut down by a simple circular argument, and who has then devolved into conjectural metaphysics and accommodating theory to fit Western liberalism. And the people who say this are mostly right. I find the Vienna Circle a lot more admirable, worthy of respect than what analytic philosophy has become in the West, especially in America. Because there is a communist yearning in the idea of logical positivism, and that is to purge language of its mystifications and of its capacity to lead people astray. And maybe, yeah, a lot of people in the Vienna Circle were communists. Otto Neurath was a raging Marxist. I'm gonna put it in chat. Otto Neurath, spelled very unlike how you pronounce it. Or they had at least communist sensibilities. And they were all of a very scientific mindset. But they were also terribly naive. I'm gonna share an image. from the website Existential Comics to provide an example. Let me see if I can share this without doxing myself. Because something I really want to do here as your friendly internet uncle that wants to get you into philosophy is to make philosophy fun. Ah, I'm doxing myself. No. There we go. No, you don't have all my information, just let me check some of my bookmarks. Okay, so this is a comic made by the people over at existentialcomics.com. I'm gonna put the link in chat. It's a good enough caricature to at least present the problem. So here we have, I can't believe I forgot his name, Rudolf Carnap? It is Rudolf Carnap, right? Yes, it is Rudolf Carnap. Talking to, I think this is Moritz Schlick. This is Otto Neurath. I forgot who the guy in the middle is. Okay, so they have apparently solved philosophy. That's it then, philosophy solved. Yep, empiricism, verifiable results, an exact scientific language. We nailed it. So what should we do now, Carnap? Go on vacation, I guess. Nice. How is the beach, Schleck? Great, Carnap. It's beautiful. Whoa, 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 whoa. Is beautiful something that you can quantify with exact scientific empirical language? I guess not. Let me rephrase. There exists a place where the ocean and the land converge, and the sand is finer than typically found. It has a yellowish color, and the ocean produces waves at a regular interval. So that is his scientifically precise, factual paraphrase of the beach is beautiful. The joke here is that we cannot empirically verify whether something is beautiful because we do not have a rigorous enough definition of what is beauty that we can measure it, contrast it, and treat it as if it were some scientific piece of knowledge. So if we try to write or express ourselves in a way that is purely factual, we will be using language like this. There exists a place where the ocean and land converge, and the sand is finer, and so on, so on, so on. And also we will have to further analyze or break down what does ocean mean. Ocean, which will be like a continuous extension of water that rises to a certain level and is composed to water that is mostly or has a predominantly salt solution, blah, 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 blah. I don't know. I have no idea how to actually scientifically and rigorously define what an ocean is. So these two dorks will eventually get into the problem that a lot of the qualitative statements such as I like this, or this is beautiful, or this is nice, or this person is good, and so on, cannot be turned into factual statements. So here Carnap went to a show, possibly a theater play, and he describes his assessment of the show as such. Several actors spoke words from a pre-written script, and the audience hit their hands together, which is a cultural signifier of approval. So he, by trying to only restrict himself to factual claims, he cannot say something like, oh, I like the theater play, or I like the show, or it was good. Which is how we normal human beings tend to speak. And that is fine. So is it just me, or is the solution to philosophy kind of lame? And they double down, because that's a joke. Maybe that's because there are still flaws and ambiguities in our natural language that accurately describe what is or isn't lame. Yeah, probably. Perhaps if we could only speak in mathematical symbols like a computer does. I don't know, Wittgenstein, what do you think? I think you're a bunch of dumb nerds and you're missing the point of not only philosophy, but life in general. This is Ludwig Wittgenstein, who... Well, he's quite a character. And he's notable in philosophy for basically going 180 degrees against a previous philosophical project in his life. You see, the purpose of life is not, despite what you think, to be a giant nerd all the time. I don't understand. How do you quantify in an exact scientific way what is or isn't a nerd? Some things you just know. But how can you prove it without empirical data? I don't have to prove that you're nerds, because everyone already knows that it is true. I mean, if taken literally, that is the case. If something is already known by everyone, you don't need to prove it. It is superfluous. Anyways. So there's lots to criticize about logical positivism and analytic philosophy. And if you want logical positivism to be like the answer to all the problems of philosophy, that's gonna be an issue. But their goal, while impossible in its totality, is still useful. The practice of semantic analysis through rigorous logical... let me fix that. I ate a word there. No, through rigorous logic, I don't know how to read, and attempting to write things that can be empirically verified, with an apostrophe because not everything that we need to talk about can be empirically verified, as we just saw, is a decent enough guideline to start and write essays. Again, that is not a solution to philosophy, as we just saw in the comic, but it is a good way to approach making factual statements. Is what I'm writing something that could be potentially empirically verified? Could I imagine myself going to this place, observing it, and learning if it's true or false? Is my writing clear enough that it models an adequately close description of a series of states in the world? Just because philosophy fails at the grand projects doesn't mean it's all useless. It's only useless if you want to solve philosophy once and for all, but it's not such a bad idea. Especially when you want to make a, if not scientific essay, but at least scientifically minded essay. Let's go through some examples, and we'll see if they are declarative statements or not. I found out I was a type 1 diabetic at age 10. So, this sentence has a modality. I found out. That tells us that the main sentence is not about a declaration of facts, modality, not modality. Statements such as I think or it is possible change the mode of the sentence. That's why they are called modal. Instead of talking about things, you're talking about a mode in which things can be presented. When you say I think or I believe, you're not talking about the world, you're talking about mental states. That is, if mental states exist, which again is another whole discussion. When you're talking about things such as it is possible, you're not talking about the world. You're talking about what exactly? One of the problems in which the project of logical positivism fell apart was modality, even though Rudolf Carnap was really good at something called modal logic. And the essay I'm taking as a reference, Meaning and Necessity, deals with modality, it gets trickier. Trying to understand what it's possible and what is necessary mean, it's a whole other philosophical adventure. Some people take it is possible to mean, oh, we can construct a mental image of a world similar to us in which the event described happens without contradiction. And some people believe that when we say it is possible, we mean, oh, there is literally, actually, another world that is exactly like ours, except for this difference in fact. Those people are called modal realists. And it is my personal stance that they are fucking the head. Sorry, but yeah. Look, I just don't get modal realism. And we can have a discussion about that later. I just want to be honest with everyone. Point is, those terms change the meaning of a sentence. This sentence is not this sentence is not a simple statement. It is the following sentence, in fact. So we know the following. 1. This person is diabetic and has been diabetic since before they were 10. Because you cannot find out you are diabetic before you're diabetic. So that is one statement we can extract from this sentence. 2. This person discovered or found evidence of their diabetes when they were 10 years old. See? So this sentence is actually 2 statements in one. And each statement can be further broken down. So if I have been diabetic since I was 10, then I am diabetic now, and I have been diabetic for a long time. That is an analysis based on just the pure grammar of what a present perfect is. A present perfect sentence is a sentence in English with the conjugation, the auxiliary verb to have, and the past participle form of the verb, and implies an action that began in the past and whose effects or presence is still relevant in the present. That is present perfect. So I can use grammar to extract statements from sentences. See? So, yeah. Not every statement is written explicitly as a sentence. And it can't, because if you write every sentence as a singular statement, you're going to be writing like a huge torque, and your style is going to suffer from it. So, measure when it is necessary to do so, as opposed to being as clear as you can. Anyways, let's go for another example. Next slide. I lost my... Where's my presentation? Did I close it down by accident? I think I did. Shit. Okay. Ah, there we go. Okay. Okay, let me stretch and hydrate. I am now unshrimped. I know. Okay, so let's see if this is a statement. When we pulled up to the McDonald's drive-thru, my friend ordered the usual for our group: 4 Big Macs, 4 large fries, and 4 large Cokes. Big Macs and large fries for big boys. It's a very American sentence. I hope you can relate. So, is this sentence a statement? Is it something that is a claim that we can go and observe if it happened or not? Can it be a fact or a falsehood? I think that we can, except for the part of the usual for our group. Like, we can break this into two parts. Yeah, we know that something happened the last time they pulled through the McDonald's drive-thru. They asked for 4 Big Macs, 4 large fries, and 4 large Cokes, and we can probably verify that if we had access to a camera or access to the ticket or the bill for the order. The tricky part is, what does it mean for something to be the usual for our group? When does something become usual? When you ask for it 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, 10 times? McWaggin, as our resident expert, how many burgers do you need for something to become a habit? This is truly a philosophical question for the Americans in chat. Sarah says 2. With just 2 burgers, that becomes a habit. Yeah, the question of when something becomes a habit is a fun one in philosophy. How many days of practice do you need to be considered a gymnast? How many murders do you need to be to be considered a murderer? What makes something usual is not something that is purely factual. It deals with social habits and expectations. But at least the part in which these people ordered 4 Big Macs, 4 large fries, and 4 large Cokes, that part is a statement, and that part can be verified or not verified. Next slide. Yeah, exactly. Girls can kiss each other and that's fine, but kissing one boy and people already call you gay, that doesn't make sense. Now, I know it makes sense because normal isn't ideal, normal is unexpected, and the crazy and the unforgiving. Is this a statement? Can I go out into the world and empirically verify, like a nerd, what this sentence is saying? How can I know whether or not the normal is ideal or not? Normal is unexpected. Yeah, what does this mean?
What does that mean?
Syntactically, it is correct, but semantically, is it correct? I mean, if the normal is the unexpected, then the expected is the abnormal, but how can the expected be abnormal? Because it is expected. Expected implies regularity. So what do you mean when you say normal? I would say no. This sentence is not a statement. It is vibes. It is maybe an attempt at poetry or emotional expression, which is valid in its own sense, but if as part of an essay, yeah, the dilemma is if we can take what we just saw and apply it and see if these are statements or not. I would say that this is not a statement. It has some grammatical shape that makes it look like a statement, but because we cannot verify it or make sense of it or understand how the words are being used, we will have to look beyond the sentence and try to ask, okay, what is this person trying to say? And when we are asking, what is this person trying to say, we are not analyzing, we are interpreting. And again, for the sake of essays, I know that the problem of interpretation in philosophy is much more wider, but for the sake of essays and for the sake of your teachers, try not to write something like this. Try to make your sentences as easy to interpret and understand as possible. Next slide. Oh yeah, this slide which I found minutes before I started the stream. This person, whose name is Gulag the Liberals 3 at Instagram, names included to not protect the guilty. They say, IQ tests aren't perfect and they definitely don't capture all aspects of human intelligence. Those are claims. IQ tests aren't perfect, that's one claim. That means IQ tests have at least one flaw. They do not capture all aspects of human intelligence. Okay, so we also know that there exists at least one aspect of human intelligence that IQ tests do not capture. For example, blah, blah, blah. I am being somewhat sarcastic. I would say that I am being a sassy bitch. This person is not being sarcastic. IQ tests still do a pretty good job at capturing certain aspects of intelligence. What does good enough mean in that sentence? Can someone tell me what does capturing intelligence good enough mean? How do I measure that? How do I verify that? How do I find out whether it's true or not? Can I do so? The vibes. Capturing aspects of intelligence such as visual spatial reasoning, processing speed, short-term memory, etc. So those are claims that those are constitutive elements of human intelligence. Those cognitive abilities IQ tests measure correlate with many positive outcomes in life too. Ooh, correlate, fancy word. What does correlate mean? And more importantly, what distinguishes a correlation from coincidence? Also, wouldn't this help to combat white supremacy since it shows that Iran, Sri Lanka, China, etc. have a higher IQ than white Western countries? That's a politically loaded statement. It contradicts the idea of white supremacy, if anything. I will add, yes, it contradicts the idea of white supremacy, but it is still built upon the idea of a supremacy. And that is something someone with a name called Gulag the Liberals should not be sponsoring or agreeing with. So yes, very clearly, while it has the shape of statements and claims, it provides us with no ability to actually measure or verify any of these claims. It is not precise enough to even evaluate. DM, I would like to roll for intelligence. Fuck you! Watch my video on the perverse ontology of stats to understand why that's bullshit. Anyways, yeah, no, it's fine, Sitter. I'm not angry with you. I am just angry with the people who take IQ seriously. So yeah, next slide. Okay, we have a statement. The country, which is Iran, has been eviscerated and is essentially no longer a threat. So, claim number one, Iran has been eviscerated and essentially is really no longer a threat. That is statement number one. And then we have statement number two. Our military hasn't even started destroying what's left in Iran. So simultaneously, Donald Trump has claimed that Iran has been essentially reduced to no longer a threat and eviscerated, but also simultaneously that the US military hasn't even started destroying what's left in Iran. So, yes! Those two sentences contradict each other. Objection. Yes, you get a star. We did war crimes, we haven't even begun war criming. Yeah. So one of the cool things you can do when you start breaking down statements from sentences is, okay, if both of these sentences claim to be factual at the same time in the same way, can they be true at the same time? I mean, unless you're doing some very advanced dialectics. No. So in terms of writing essays, writing simple declarative sentences can help you avoid contradicting yourself. I know it makes your writing a little more boring, a little more basic looking, but your teachers will appreciate the clarity. We, and I include myself because I was in the game for 8-9 years, we as teachers appreciate clarity and simplicity more than style and purple prose. We have to grade anywhere from 15 to 30 essays at a time. Trust me. Simple, at least in your college essays, is better. Simple allows you to study your own writing better. It allows you to avoid contradictions. So yeah, Trump, funnily enough, at least grammatically speaking, makes claims and statements. Pragmatically, though, that is debatable. That will lead into a whole avenue of what matters more, what is written or its intent as a speech act. And that, again, it's a whole other philosophical debate, where what matters is what you said or how you said it, when you said it, and so on, so on, so on. Anyways, enough torture. Let's move on. Okay. The final example and the reason why I was pushed by my neurosis to make this stream is that I watched the new Luthero documentary in the manosphere. And I'm sorry, we want to watch just a bit of it. Okay, enough that it is legally distinct and under fair use. Okay, Twitch? This is a very short part. It is not constitutive of the whole, and it is covered under fair use because we're analyzing it, okay? So, context. Luthero is making a documentary about, manosphere grifters and so on. Yeah, this is transformative work. We're doing transformative work here. So he meets up with this American manosphere person who sells you supplements and cheats and ways to invest money and become rich and whatever. And they're just, Louis and his crew are just following him around, okay? So they go get some tea and they bump into some people. That's the context.
You want to sit down with us and have this tea? All right.
Can I say hi? Matthew.
Okay, so British warning. British person on the left is Louis Theroux. On the right are the fans of the guy with the bad fitting suit that makes his man boobs look bigger. So the guy with the bad fitting suit is the manosphere person guy, and the two goobers are like his fans. And we're gonna see a quick exchange between them.
Chris, Louis. How do you know Justin?
I see his videos and he's one of my greatest role models. You know, he teaches a lot of
100%. Him, Andrew Tate,
Andrew Tate.
Tristan Tate, the brothers, they're all big inspiration to all of us.
What's the message? What do you get from it?
I just say to never give up. You know, it's life as a man, you're born without value, but you have to build that value throughout time.
Okay. Statement number 1. Men are born without value.
What do you mean, life as a man, you're born without value?
And what does Luther immediately ask? What does that mean?
It's
Nothing in the world is
nothing's
given.
Okay, claim number 2. Nothing in the world is given to you. Organs are valuable too. Yeah, I know.
You have to.
every single.
Do you think women have it?
I think they're born with their value through beauty.
Statement number 3. Women are born with value through beauty.
Exactly.
Because a woman can be stunningly beautiful at 20 years old and get invited to ride in that car or onto a boat or be flying to Miami or whatever because it's pure beauty. Nobody's going to invite him on a trip to Miami.
Statement number 4. Nobody is gonna invite... Dude. Sorry. I'm sorry. I have to share the pain.
They're not going to fly him out. He has to create value in the world. He has to be valuable to other men.
Exactly.
Otherwise, nobody cares.
Exactly. You say, hey,
And that's a fact.
There it is! There it is. That is the part that broke me. Look, you can say shit. You can say shit all you want. But when you say, that's a fact, you are playing the game of giving and answering reasons. When you say that's a fact, you're turning these statements into claims. You're no longer just saying or being part of a conversation with no stakes. When you say that's a fact, you are now committing to a certain epistemic value of the words you're saying. See? It stops being a casual conversation and it starts being something more serious. Okay, now let's take what we just learned today. Let's take the most incendiary statement. Women are born with value through beauty. Is that a fact? Can that be a fact? Negative. Why not? Okay, so MacBagging went to the... Okay, what do you mean when you say beauty? And that he likes a particular girl with how she can do a perfect impression of Toad's voice. I mean, I guess that is beautiful in some way, maybe. That is basically the same joke that we saw earlier with the Circle of Vienna at the beach. How can I verify that something is beautiful? Okay, Insider asks, because beauty isn't even defined properly in the first place, excluding how ableist that now sounds. Yes. This is all +5 strength nonsense and start number drinking. Yeah, it is. But let me provide another avenue of analysis than the one you suggested. Who is women? People? So, in logic, when you have a statement like women are born with value through beauty, that is an empty statement. It is not a complete sentence. Because we cannot evaluate which members of the property it applies to. So let's assume for right now that women is a property. It's more complicated than that, but no, delete. It's more complicated than that, but let's just imagine that being a woman is just a label. And you can be a man, you can be a woman, you can be any number of genders, but gender is one, women. Yeah, women are property. No, not that sense of property. A property in the sense of a label an object has. Also, that's another good question. When we say women, is this person talking about women as gender or women as sex? Either way, it's troublesome. It's questionable. We don't know, and even if we did know what he meant, we don't have a proper definition of what is woman and so on. But my query is more simple. Women is an empty statement. It's an empty term. Because women is not an object. Women, at least grammatically speaking, is a property. A property that a person may have. So you can be a woman or you can be something else. Or you can be a woman and something else at the same time, depending on how advanced your gender is. But again, who is women? Who does women refer to in this sentence? All women? Some women? Most women? Are all women born with value through beauty? Can we verify that? I mean, potentially yes, and we can prove that is false. Because look, not all women are pretty as charitably understood under the social normal parameters. I mean, and that's not even getting into the problem of what beauty is. Some women, okay, so some women are born through value through beauty. Okay, I guess at least one, I suppose. I'm still not sure what being born with value mean, but at least if you say some women, that would be a complete sentence. But if we take some women, then his whole philosophy falls apart, because what about the women who are not born with value through beauty? Then they have to work as well, and therefore it's not a man problem, it's just a human problem. Most women? How do you find most? Again, what pissed me the fuck off about this exchange is that, yes, of course, this person is a rampant misogynist and a bastard and a grifter, but also he doesn't know what words mean. Yeah. Nothing of what he said is a fact. Grammatically, it cannot even be turned into a fact. They are just vague statements meant to impress people by preying on their vibes. That's all it was. So, don't be like this guy. Don't be like Justin. Don't hang out with Andrew Tate. And try to do your best and start writing in simple, declarative, verifiable sentences. Not always, but at least when you're doing a college essay. Yay! And that's it, really. That's all I want to say today. Any questions from chat? Can I get a certificate for attending today? Yes. Yes, you can. I'm gonna draw you a certificate and post it later. Okay, let's see what happens in the following.
I want to say to your face, like, thank you so much.
Nothing else. Just glazing the guy.
For me, you're one of my biggest role models.
That's so sad.
Two things I tell anybody that stops me. Number one, I love you.
Yeah.
That's fake and empty.
Nothing in this world you can't
I mean, how can you love someone and then scam them in your crypto investment Telegram group, whatever? What if I hate my TA and want them to suffer reading my bullshit? How do I become more nonsensical and vague? I don't know. I have spent so much time. I have spent so much time as an autistic person and as a philosopher trying to be understood. I don't really know how to be. Okay, so if you want to be more nonsensical as vague, I suppose, talk in metaphors and comparisons. Explain things only in other terms. Compare things constantly. Say, this is like that other thing. And never present an argument. Never make sure your teacher assistant can never answer the question, what is this person's point? Who knows what goes on in the mind of an Italian plumber made by a Japanese when he stumps a turtle? I know. It goes, wahoo!
We're in this shit together. I get stopped every day by a young man that tells me that changed his life.
The content put out by Justin and his peers pushes an ideology known as the red pill.
The amount of bullshit the modern Western man has to put up with.
They take the phrase from the movie The Matrix.
A movie made by trans people.
What is the red pill? Can you explain this to me? It's just seeing the truth for what it really is.
Oh yeah, I forgot. About this part. This is another part that upset me the fuck out.
Claiming to have seen through the mainstream media's the content put out by
Bullshit, the modern Western man has to put up with.
They take the phrase from the movie The Matrix.
What is the red pill? Can you explain this to me? It's just seeing the truth.
The essay? Do you mean that essay about the person who basically wrote a meme and inserted a bunch of Mario stuff and some page breaks with the word, not page breaks, sentence breaks with the word perchance? I've seen it. It's funny, but I think it's fake. Anyways, seeing the truth for what it really is. Basically, yeah. When I'm gonna end this today with this. when you're writing an essay, you are not just saying the things that come to your head as most people do when they talk. You are engaged in a more serious kind of game in which the things you say can and may be used to infer what you believe in or what can be considered true or not. If you're autistic, you may already be intuitively familiar with this. We autistic people tend to say what we mean, and we tend to take extra effort to match what we say as closely as possible with our intent. But if you're not, then maybe start doing that. Maybe start thinking, okay, if I am going to be taken at my word, and I am not just playing a game of social communication, but like trying to ascertain things about reality, maybe I should be a little more worried about whether what I say can be made to describe or model or any other choice of verbs reality. How words do that is a bigger question. Some people say it's about correspondence, some people say it's about a complex social game, some people say it's about creating a good enough model. That is more complex philosophy. But again, for the sake of just writing an essay, maybe think a little bit like one of these nerds. I'm going to put another example of Rudolf Carnap in Existential Comics. Going to the extremes of how to precisely define what a sandwich is. Anyways, yeah, be a little bit more like a nerd, be a little bit more like Rudolf Carnap, maybe not all the way, but definitely not go all the way, but definitely do not be like these chuds. Take what you say with a little more stubborn seriousness. Don't just say things like, it's seeing the truth for what it really is, man. Because this thing, if we convert it to a statement, it's a claim no one can hold up to. Anyways, as I said, it was gonna be a short stream today. That's all I want to do, and I want to. Yeah, you're already on track. That's all I really wanted to do today, and I wanted to make a short essay so I can just plug this to YouTube. I hope it was useful for both the chatters right now, and if you're watching the VOD on YouTube or somewhere else, please drop a comment. I want to see if this actually helps people. Please tell me if this video and the following can help you or help you write an essay. And again, if you have any doubts or don't know how to start writing something for your college or high school, you can come up to this chat and ask me. I am open for helping people with your homeworks. I am better than ChatGPT. I will not feed you bullshit. I will try to treat you with respect and sincerity. Anyways, good luck with your essays, and I hope people have an easier time arguing and debating without screaming at each other. Have a good night, everyone. Thanks, Sitter. Try to sleep now. That's all for today. This was Samuel, your friendly uncle on the internet that wants to help you get into philosophy. Hello, Solaris. Sorry, but you called me right in the end. It's fine. You can watch the VOD. Yay, Setter! Look, okay, actually, do we have enough people for a raid? No, we do not. Okay, I'll see you all on the flip side. Bye-bye.